Hi, I'm Peter Chalmers, and this is the Group 6 presentation on the communicative progress and revolution of mass media and new technologies. Our research question is, what effects have the evolution of mass media and communication technologies had on the human communication, culturally, socially, and politically? The problem/objective of our paper is, what is the history of mass media, and how has its development grown on a global scale? How have modern changes in communication affected social, cultural, and political spheres? How have growths in communication technology led to the westernization of world cultures? How have revolutions in communication technology changed not only what we communicate, but also change our values on a global community?
Hi, my name is Rob Sutton. This is our methodology. Through the comparison of recent literature on the internet, revolution, and mass communication advances with the first developments in communication printing press, we are able to draw a better rounded conclusion about the changes that have been made to society as a result. Looking at the first changes and effects of printing press and the ability to spread messages to the masses in the 13th century, we looked for major changes that were felt by human communication, including the widespread acceptance and following of religion, shortly followed by the individual expression through print. As this technology further advanced, we looked for the similarities in human reactions to the introduction of newer communication technologies, such as television, which had a lot of potential for good, but was utilized for fear-mongering and propaganda. After we analyze these initial communication technologies, we can see an exponential change and increase in both quantity and quality of mass communication devices. The knowledge and capabilities available to internet users knows no boundaries and has no substantial changes to how we interact in society and also how we spread cultural norms and imperatives. This can be defined when looking at globalization and even the Americanization, westernization of culture. Overall, our analysis is an in-depth look at how revolutions in communication technology not only change the way in which we communicate, but also changes our values as a global community.
My name is Janis Parravani, and these are the results of our study. The increasing development and popularity of new digital technologies and social media services that are user-driven has facilitated an evolution of social media. Leading social platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and MySpace have emerged and diffused throughout society, now dominating the way in which individuals utilize the internet. These social media texts are becoming prosperous digital spaces all over the globe due to the increasing social access and usage of these platforms. Online environments have become a contemporary communication medium as individuals have access to more information and entertainment from numerous sources than ever before in our digital era. The emergence of democratic societies throughout the world is due to the increasing power of mass communication. The power of mass communication comes in different forms. It is involved in the processes of government lobbying and corporate hegemony. The system of democratic processes works in favor of media and corporations who have a stake in the political parties and campaigns. Using media to portray ideals onto the public is a simple concept, which can entail many aspects that are important in understanding cultural control in terms of social deception and controlled economies. We can see much understanding from the world of globalization and how everything is now interconnected with technology. The fact that demand is high for up-to-the-minute updates means that mass communication is altering the way we perceive our world, and the emergence of democratic societies is altering dictatorships around the world. The spread of information to people in isolated parts of the world can be effective in spreading the word of freedom to those oppressed. As mass communication has become increasingly powerful in our digital era, members of the public have also become more powerful as individuals are able to connect and express their thoughts, opinions, and feelings regarding present news and information, thus leading to the controversial argument of whether this concept has led to a collapse of the monarchs and a step toward a democratic or dictatorship in regards to innovative media texts that have been introduced and diffused throughout our Western society.
My name is November Chernick, and I will be presenting the discussion portion of our study. The fact that dictatorships are being crushed by social upheavals is due mainly to the fact of the increasing power of social networking. We can see both positive and negative aspects of mass communication and how it can change and affect cultures abroad. In 2011, the upheaval of Muammar Gaddafi's regime is the perfect example of how mass media is changing the way cultures think. The Syrian dictator was pushed out of power after public outcry called for fair elections and democratic system that made it fair for all citizens to have equal rights. There were many protests in Damascus where people voiced their opinions of the regime for the first time in 30 years. The emergence of social networking feeds sparked a revolution that was seen in Syria. If that event is possible through the means of mass communication, then anything is possible in terms of gaining democracy in nations that haven't seen equality rights. The various Hollywood gossips in the industry have led to various streams of networks of social power. The structure of social power has altered mass communication and the way we view the world. Again, we can contribute this to the globalization and the power of internet that brings us all into one online community. The sharing of views and opinions pushes us what we know to be the global village. Technological determinism is an important process in understanding the changing times of mass communication. In the reading by Matthew Lovelace titled Media Dependency. In this reading, media dependency states for societies in a state of crisis or instability, citizens are more reliant on mass media for information and as such are more susceptible to their effects. The point of convergence fuels the future of technology and the way we educate those who are in different parts of the world. The functions of mass communication in developed areas are to socialize those who watch television and radio and to make them feel like they need mainstream media in order to function and relate with society's normalities. It is clear that we can use mass communication to prevent dictatorships from ruling nations and regions. The information age has opened us to an international database of information readily available for academic research and quick facts that are useful and helpful. This globalization is the only lineage that brings the underdeveloped and developed world together. If we look at regions like Burma and the United States, we can see the huge difference in terms of infrastructure and culture. When we look at these changes in technology, we can interconnect capitalism, bureaucracy, and authority and anonymity, and how they can be broadcasted to those who have never experienced democracy. Overall, the reading from Lovelace is essential for filling the gap in our knowledge about the role of mass media in democratizing countries and chart clear direction for broadening our understanding of the process of political socialization in such countries. Lovelace brings up an important issue that can be discussed in several ways. Do individuals in countries in political transition rely on mass media for information, and does this reliance diminish as the political environment becomes more stable? We can conceptualize this topic in several different forms. Firstly, countries that are currently in political transition rely on mass media for their information. Sometimes it can vary in terms of news networks and ideologies they represent. Secondly, news can inform mass amounts of people at one time and can educate the public on domestic issues that are important for making a political decision. The reason why our dependency on technology is so crucial for political and government influence is because when people do not have the information they need, they want to gain it through any means possible. People cannot make informed decisions without having facts or news available to them. The culture behind the information age is the know-it-all. If you do not know something, your first instinct is to Wikipedia it or Google it. Media corporations have now taken advantage of on-demand coverage in a way that it is readily available to all classes of society. The cultural barriers are now being changed across the world. Soon we will all be interconnected through some social facet that will allow for less discrimination and more productivity for cultural industries and trading policies, thus creating a future with limitless ideas for the world. The problem with using mass media as information sources is that some of these sources may be corrupt in terms of influential ideologies that may have bias towards political figureheads. Many of these sources can be manipulated through leverage. This creates an environment of corruption within media and government. In government forums, there are dictatorships. They use media to portray ideas to the public as a form of social control to manipulate ideals onto society. The government control of media is very detrimental to societies under suppression, can affect the way that societies see the international world. For example, places like North Korea do not get international television programs. They only get government-sponsored television shows that express expectations in their niche culture. Many of the people in this region are hidden from the truth about their country because mass communications is not international, but is controlled, and so it is easy to manipulate the way they think.
To conclude, looking at the obvious connections between the social and political upheavals of today's society and past societies, there is an obvious explanation for the similarities. The first most obvious connection would be that the introduction and utilization of new information and communication technologies leads people to become radicalized and come together for a joint cause. Although as society has progressed, we have moved towards a more individualistic culture, we still have the same basic needs for freedom of expression and to voice our opinions. Just as the printing press voiced the opinions of those who were oppressed by the Catholic Church, the Internet is opening doors for contemporary oppressed cultures to gain freedom and a global voice. It's almost as if the Internet has had the same effect on society as the printing press, except on a global level. The global diffusion of information, political, and cultural ideas is a stepping stone to a global revolution and freedom for all mankind. This is Group 6 presentation, and thank you for listening.